Guys, so to catch you up, oh my God, the lights. Yeah, future is so bright, I gotta wear shades. Matt Garrett and I decided to create two different platforms. So he's gonna keep Dimitto as his personal site for his tailored content. And as you have heard already from my previous video, I'm having my Nickyy Ortega Mastermind in school.com, a platform created by one of my mentors when I was growing up, Sam Ovens. Okay, with that said, you can sign up for the school mastermind here, and you can find Matt Garrett's content by looking at his YouTube channel or the Dimitto YouTube channel or dimitto.org or Dimitto on Instagram. So still brothers and sisters, branches of the same Godhead consciousness, but just taking two different flavors. So we decided to do this for now. Although perhaps in the future we'll make joint retreats or whatnot. So this was the last video we recorded together on wealth consciousness, and it has so many juicy gems. This was going to be part of a retreat. So we're going to charge perhaps 2,000 just for this video, which we decided to release for free. So you're getting a $2,000 1 hour experience right now. So I suggest you take out your popcorn, your 3D glasses, and immerse yourself in the new matrix. And when you're done, sign up for the mastermind on the link below. Mwah.
Kind of a really cool place. I like it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's keep it.
Okay, let me put myself up a bit. All right. All right, so we're back. It was lovely to chat with you last week. We're joining now for episode 2. We uploaded the last one yesterday, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Did you have anything that you wanted to speak about today, or should we just go with whatever we're feeling?
Yeah, I guess into the feeling of it. Um,
I love your
that's the thing. Oh, thank you. The feeling of it, how we don't really want the things that we think we want. We want the sensations. So we may attach it to the spiritual enlightenment, the $1 billion, all the friendships, all the loves, all the trips, all the whatever. Those things are cool. So we have them. Yet for people to see that the reason we have them is because we feel good, not because we have them and then we feel good. I
Mm,
think I really like that topic.
yeah.
Or anything else you feel.
No, this is perfect. I really like that. Let's go
Yeah.
let's go into the word emptiness of what emptiness truly means and how, especially with Hawkins, how his explanation of the void of being really that is the love, is the joy. The objects themselves are so inherently empty of any thing that we think will satisfy them. But when you see them as reflections of what you've chosen within your consciousness to resemble like who you are and what you want to bring into manifestation, we can completely unwind ourselves from that concept that we're not creators, right? That we're just having to renounce everything and completely live a life of seclusion. But you touch on a really good subject of that in between zone where it's like the hand of creation is manifesting what it wants and what it loves and through passion, not through satisfaction. But it never grasps the objects that comes into view because it knows it's just a play of color and objects and identities and minds. So I think what you're touching into there is this step out of um, disowning that power to create what you want, but then the subtle sort of serpent that says, well, now you can keep this for some kind of safety within that new structural object. So that's what I got from you is a great balance of opening to the power of it, but not then succumbing
Yeah.
to the power of it. You know?
Yeah. Wow, that's what it is. Because it's empty. The images are inherently empty. The the colors are also empty. I mean, a really high level of consciousness is just the mastery to play with symbols. I just use the symbols to play. I'm like, but they're empty. There's nothing can bind me. There's nothing that can hook me to the world. There's nothing the world can offer me that is worth sacrificing my peace and my joy that just exists because I exist, not because I'm having the experience. Although the experience is also nice and it comes your way even more and more when we abide in that frequency of all consciousness and abundance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The playing of symbols.
Yeah.
Right. The only way that spirit can really speak to you in spirits, and also the only way you can speak back to the world is through symbols, like how you are and your energetic signature. You could say, oh, well, don't be so material, don't be, but truly the way that we create in this density, because we have the gift of sight and sound and sensuality and touch and taste, whatever that is, the richness of your experience will be a reflection of what you've chosen for yourself in the form of the symbols that you receive. Even if you eat, a divine meal, someone may say, well, that's completely different to just eating beans on toast or whatever you eat. But it really is a symbol of the wealth that you've chosen for yourself. And it's not wealth to do with like the cost of the food, like we spoke about last week with the definition of abundance, the wealth of like really it's the richness of consciousness. Like there's so much more consciousness in certain, let's say you go to a restaurant, let's say you go to a fast food chain, people come in, there's no meditation on the food. There's no like sensuality there. It serves its place. There's nothing wrong with fast food, but don't go there thinking you're going to find the same energy that you'll find in a place that has so much care and artistic endeavor into the food. Like it is the wealth of what you're choosing for yourself. Yeah, sure, it costs more there. That's just a reflection of wealth as well. But there's so much abundance in like consciousness in different ways. And like where you go to stay, I was saying the other day, like in an Airbnb, I always look at the reviews and I look at the what they say about the place. And if it's like I went to an Airbnb the other day and they had a loaf of bread out, they had it all cut up, so much love that went into like preparing the room for you. And if I didn't have this self-care and self-love, I would have just chosen any place on the cheapest place and would have got the same energy from the room. So it's like we go again to what is wealth, and it's a symbol of what you're choosing.
Yes, I love that metaphor so much. And for somebody that hasn't experienced the luxury, the symbols of luxury are going to help support their vibration. Yet true mastery is you don't need the symbols to feel the luxury frequency, the abundance frequency. That's when you can be anywhere and feel complete. It's all about the feeling of completion.
Mm.
There's some people that are so poor that the only thing they have is money.
Mm. I
The
love
chauffeur,
you go. You're on a roll, you go.
no, the chauffeur that brought me here yesterday, he works with high level people from all over the world and moves them across Panama, kings, steward of islands, self-made billionaires, millionaires. And he was telling me all the stories, and some of them were really sad of like their personal lives, how lonely they were. And that resonates with also many clients I have of um, they didn't spoke with families or kids or life with their wives. Like they became friends, more friends with the chauffeur than with supposedly blood members of their family, because they were all fighting for resources and who gets more, who gets less, and then like one of them killed themselves. And I'm like, I'm listening to all these stories and I'm just like, of course, these codes are coming to me because it's more confirmation of what I'm sharing with the world, which is like true abundance doesn't mean the monies. I'm like, I can play with those symbols and people are like, oh my God, really? And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's not it. You are it already.
Yeah.
What your wealth. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that if you don't balance out these wealth codes, whatever you want to call them, with the recognition of that which is untouched, I think you provide such a good sort of foundation to what it means to step into that, which is step one, find the source, because the source is untouched by experience, it's untouched by all money, which are, like we say, are symbols and reflections. Because there's one thing in reality which isn't a symbol, and that's yourself, which doesn't need a reflection. So sure, I can talk about, and we can talk about the reflections, the wealth, choosing for yourself. But you make a really good point to root that in the foundation of the source of the satisfaction, which is untouchable by anything on the screen. And I think it's so easy for someone to come into spirituality, especially in this new age where it is just so allowed for wealth. It is just, no one has to go through what the 20th century went through, the renunciation, a lot of sort of feeling guilty about it. Now, if someone isn't taking that first step into themselves, the second step into wealth is never going to be supported by the ground. It's going to be supported by putting something in the object, which is going to provide it. But it's almost as if the rocket fuel for anything you want to do in the world is always step one is self-reliance with a capital S. Like if you're drinking from the well of yourself, then sure, you will have the energy to manifest whatever it is to reflect that. But I think self-sovereignty can fall into the trap of like me and my possessions are sovereign and we're over here and we're away from the world. But actually, detach yourself from all object. You're sovereign in an untouchability which doesn't know physicality. It doesn't know, doesn't even know loss. Doesn't even know gain. And that is like a root in the transcending and then the transmuting of all the little hands that try to grasp onto that stuff. So yeah, the context that you speak about is so important for people to get, because I feel like you've worked with people, maybe I've worked with people where maybe they're looking for the object because maybe someone hears something about wealth consciousness, but they don't really want to do the first thing, which is the last thing everyone really does in enlightenment, which is to fall madly in love with who you are beyond all labels and objects and identities. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love when you say ungraspable, because it's ungraspable. Just the crystallization of the sensation is just it's like the infinite relief. It's not even a sense of excitement. Like it's an excitement that's subtle. It's like a heart's subtle, consistent, ongoing, infinite, peaceful bliss.
Mm.
And then that state crystallized, magnetizes all the experiences and the things, which is hilarious. But then people hear them and they're like, oh, I need to be in peaceful bliss, so then I get the thing. So then they're still coming from wanting the thing. So I can tell you this, but not for you. I mean, the viewer, not for the viewer to be like, okay, then I don't want it. So it shows up. It doesn't gonna show up. You truly need to be the embodiment of it. So yeah.
Yeah, how many times can you see, and you can only really see in someone else what you've kind of transmuted in yourself, but the agenda basically of some kind of high vibration in order to attract secretly the objects that they think will provide the satisfaction. It's almost like a catch-22 where it's like, what's the true agenda here? Like, do you want truth above all else, or are you using a fractal of a teaching that you found in order to satisfy your personal agendas anyway? Right? Like, what's the true honesty here? Does someone actually want, because what you've got to see as well, if someone's like really going for abundance, is the most abundant thing you'll ever find is yourself. Like step one, the most richness of the consciousness, if you're ever in the presence of someone that has nothing, if they are full of self with a capital S, they radiate wealth consciousness, everything you're looking for in these kind of empty objects. Like it's a byproduct. It has to always be a byproduct of what you've chosen in truth. Like, put your flag down in yourself and then things attract to it. Don't go around with your flag not knowing who you are and try, like you see how people are so sometimes unstable. And when I was starting off, I would see abundance things and kind of, trying that same thing, sort of uproot yourself, abandon yourself in order to get it. The greatest lesson ever is actually getting it with the instability yourself and then realizing, well, I don't feel any different. So then it's always straight back to the self.
Beautiful. That's exactly what it meant. So I love that you can translate it in a way that could reach somebody else that perhaps resonates more with your language.
Mm.
Because it's like we're like, yeah, it's coming true. Hmm. I am that Nisargadatta Mahara. That's what it is. Everything it's you. So people, the flag thing, it's like people, it's like, I am my Ferrari. I am my hot wife. I am my bank account. I am my whatever. And everything is a symbol of this is me. The apartments they get, everything. It's like, oh, I am this now. This is a reflection of who I am in an apartment, in a car, in my romantic partner, in this. Everything it's you. So you're getting to know yourself through symbols, but if you truly know yourself, then symbols are just like puppets, not pop. Well, that sounds kind of mean. I don't like puppeteers with people. You have free will. Everybody can choose. But yeah, everything becomes like a prop. I'm like, oh, everything is a prop. Fun. But I am who I am by myself without the prop. You can just take off the hat. Doesn't change who I am. The hat just enhances how I feel about myself.
Mm. Beautiful. The language is funny.
Yeah.
The energy is exactly the same, and it kind of translates. Like the word translation is so interesting because the frequency of self-sovereignty is known instantly. How we describe that, how we kind of paint it into a picture of what that means for us will be based on our experiences of going out, finding what it means to abandon yourself. It's like we can always just make this path so simple. This is the only path for this density I find is the temptation of the world is there to abandon yourself, to conform to something that basically externalizes your savior. This is the whole thing of religion, is the externalization of God into images, into forms, and then the slow return back to the sovereignty of self, which is tasted to be sweeter eventually than the artificial sweetness of the objects, because both taste sweet to an innocent mind, right?
Mm.
So someone that grows up in a schooling system that's told, well, because all they want is happiness and they're fed a certain belief system, you're going to taste the both. And at the start, there's not too much difference because a lot of people spend a lot of time alone. A lot of people get money. The first bit of money you get is, amazing. You get so much freedom because all we want is freedom. But then the sensitivity to saying, well, what's becoming sour and what's staying sweet? Because yourself never loses sweetness. Like it can't, because if anything, the sweetness that comes from the freedom in money is really the freedom in yourself. And that seems to enable it. So it's always a case of going out with your flag, like you say, where am I gaining? Where are we projecting our source? Is it coming from myself or is it coming back to me from my objects? And then we realize, oh, it's always coming out from me. And you can either use the objects as who you are or just as a reflection of where you're really always drinking from, which is ungraspable. And I really like the word really quickly is ungraspable because the fantasy is of a stagnant freedom, of some kind of once I have enough money, once I get to the stillness in my throne that's so far away from reality on my hill, then have some kind of the mind always wants like a stillness within form, whether that's like a stable career relationship. I really just want a husband that would just be mine forever, right? The religions with their sexual energy virus turn this into like this manipulation of guilt around marriage, and you can see how it manifests. But freedom is ungraspable, and you have to realize that you will jump off the cliff. And the sweetness of the drama of life is that you never find a ground, but there is no ground. That is the finding. As soon as you go onto the edges again, money, temptation comes in for grasp. It would say basically all of these temptations are basically saying, hold on to me, I can provide you stability. But you've just got to keep seeing that it's just a lie. It's a lie. And
Yeah.
the fooling, yeah. It's a great point you made on ungraspability.
It's a falling. You're in such a role. Keep going. It's a falling. You're like, okay.
All right, one more time.
It's
No,
a
but
mirage.
yeah. You are the manifestation of that teaching as well. The ways that we teach are don't look for stillness in form, jump off the cliff, have the courage to see that you can fly, which is really, as we're coming out of this density, we're getting lighter and lighter. So we don't want to be in dense physicality in our castles anymore. We know intuitively that we're entering this kind of lighter and lighter space, which doesn't have a kind of it's just consciousness, it's actual physics. Like we are getting lighter and lighter, which doesn't need to be secluded or excluded. We are just in a free fall forever, infinity.
The free fall. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm.
Symbols, mirage, objects, just, and to be fair, yeah, puppeteers. When one is self-sovereign in oneself, you are not puppeteer for anybody. But when you idolize symbols, which are not, that's not the kingdom of heaven. Kingdom of heaven, you are past symbols. But any other symbol that keeps you binded to wantingness or craving, you become a puppet of that symbol. Anybody who can offer you that, you become subject to their will and being bent by their projection of you.
Mm.
I get people coming like, yeah, but this person projected, this person triggered me. I'm like, well, no, those are all servants of your reality in that moment. So you see, what are you binded to? What are you still grasping on? And then when you're not attached to anything, then you become the Buddha mind. Source of detachment. You detach from everything per second. As it arises, it goes. Arises, passes, arises, passes. Take it and leave it, take it and leave it. And then there's absolutely no lack. So true wealth is the crystallization of knowing that there's no lack and there's nothing that will ever fulfill you. Just the stop of seeking for fulfillment. That's what fulfillment is. And then the passion that arises from every moment just by the beauty of existence. It has to be felt, realized.
Yeah, that's the greatest paradox of all is as soon as you start to trust the free fall, you find the rock solidness that is rock solid, and that's yourself. So it's almost as if someone can come into this like, oh, I'm going to have to surrender forever. Well, at a certain point, you find what you're after. This isn't like the endless Easter egg hunt that you never, right? There is a certain dawning on you that you start to realize, oh, I only felt as though this only feels like chaos and surrender and free fall to the mind that's been trying to hold on. You are endlessly free for an eternity, and you've never held on until you wanted to experience what it was like to be so focused into a body that, you know, as soon as you had the body, that is the creation of objects, because now you think you're a subject that can acquire. So the only free fall it feels like is to the perspective of a body that thinks it can have a fantasy of freedom within the body. So as soon as you step off that cliff, you realize, oh, all that I'm changing is my sovereignty from objects into self. But the free fall, the surrender is into you. Like you are the one waiting on the other end of your surrender. It's not like you're falling into the abyss, like that you go into the abyss, into the void, like Hawkins says, but you are actually the ground that you catch yourself in, your larger self as the one creator. So this is why it feels so blissful, because then you're reunited with the self with a capital S, which feels so familiar and warm compared to how cold it feels to be the puppeteer of someone else, right? Like how disconnected can you feel when you've put all your eggs of your happiness into the basket of this person or this job or really this identity? Because then it's as if you have to achieve something to be yourself. And it doesn't feel familiar. It feels very strange to spirit, because spirit's been free for eternity and suddenly it has to achieve something, or you've believed that you have to achieve something to feel that. But this free fall is always into yourself. Like you're running back to you. That's why it feels so familiar. So when we meet and the way that the social memory complex is forming, eventually the society will feel as though wherever you're walking on yourself, you're meeting yourself. It's so clear every moment of every second that when you interact with someone, it's not a body. It's like really is you. It's like if you were to walk around in yourself, like the whole canvas is you, and you're feeling the ground, you're touching people. This is the intimacy of like the capital S self, which Ramana talks about, Hawkins talks about. But we're in this stage where it's coming and going in society, where people feel very individuated. But the funny thing is, we can only meet in the social memory complex in our individuated expressions. We can't be in uniform sort of communism or something. Yeah, that's the other paradox. We go out to come back in to the Christ, really, is in our individuated expressions.
Yeah, beautiful. You're trying to get out, well, it's trying to get in. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's knocking at the door all the time.
Yeah. And then when it's in, like when the God consciousness, Christ consciousness is fully in, then damn, like what's even happening? And then it's just a free fall of, oh, what's happening? And then it's like the childlike curiosity.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, what happens now? Oh, nice, a flower, nice, a butterfly. Oh, okay. And the sense of responsibility, which is was one of my biggest fears for fully letting myself go. I mean, letting the mind die or whatever it is, was like, how are things gonna take care of themselves? Like the practical things, they just do. Like it just happens. Like, what? It can be that easy. So letting go of the paranoia, it's like the best blessing. It's like, yeah,
Mm.
fear of dying. That's just a big, am I gonna die? Well, yeah, and that should be exciting.
Yeah. Like when someone asks Bashar, what happens when you die? And it's like, whatever you want, because you don't die. It's only the car that you were driving in that gets put aside. So it's like until you believe that the car won't be put aside, you're just having, it's like, when people drive around like 50-year-old cars, like really trying to make it work. It's like, just put it aside. You just carry on. You'll find a Ferrari down the road if you just let go of this one.
Yeah, let's put it aside. Yeah, beautiful. I love how you use the symbols too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They're just vessels, aren't they? I think we can just redefine what a body is. Like, why do we think body is biology? I don't know where biology became the only body. Like, it's just a way that you can experience a really slowed down light, which condenses itself into seeming solidity. That's what biology is. At what point did we say this was just me?
In seeming biology, just like condensed in seeming biology.
Yeah.
Truly just a hologram.
Hmm. If I came over to you with a telescope and we looked right into your body, you'd find a particle, you'd go up to the particle, you zoom into that, it would be more space. There'd be more space. No one's ever found the particle in the whole universe. It's just
Did you
a,
just got that image? That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's a perfect metaphor. That's what it is.
Hmm, yeah. The closer you go in, the more void you find. There's no substance to anything. And that is the freedom. People think that's like depressing, but you're free from the solidity. All of these forms are just colors that you've added a story to as a label and said, this is what this means for me. Right. But you can have an experience where none of it means anything to you except from enjoyment. You can let it go as soon as it passes.
Yeah, because this is empty space. That's like, oh, now I want to be empty space, resonating with this drink because it says royal jelly, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a royal fish for 1 second. So in that moment, because I'm empty, I become the drink. So now I just choose things that say things that I resonate with or things that are beautiful because I'm like, I am that. There's nothing in there.
Mm. Yeah, why do we draw a boundary around us to the object, right? Like when you drive something or you are something, this is what I mean about loosening the definitions of what your body is. Your body like when I'm in a room, the whole room is me, right? So if I drink a drink, I'm drinking a part of myself, and I'm like, where does the sensation even arise? It doesn't belong to any part of the body. It's just a big experience of emptiness. Like, yeah, there's no boundaries to anything.
Mm-mm. The whole room is you. The whole feel is you, including the characters in that moment. And that's why the discernment of, okay, I rather not spend this much time with this person because they're in this frequency. I don't want to be that. But when I'm with them, I become them. I'm like, okay, this is me right now. Okay. Not anymore. I choose to be here with me. So that's why I like to be alone. I'm like, who can match up to me? I guess we keep personality traits. I'm like, well, I always been cocky.
Yeah. Yeah, meeting in each other's solitude is the key. Like, yeah, because if you're ever around a frequency where they're trying to keep you as a certain thing and them as a certain thing, and it's almost as if they're joining in solidity, like some kind of oppressive way. It's usually basically to keep it all comes down to sexual energy every time. And I mean in like jobs in the workplace and anything. It's always the same thing. It's nothing to do with when I say sexual energy, I hope people mean it's the creative energies. It's not like penetrative sex every time, right? Like just the whole of creation is a sexual energy. It's the masculine and feminine coming together and creating that split, seeming split. So just to be sure there. But let's say someone the trait of something where the frequency wants to keep this kind of division and to be like, I'm the masculine and you're the feminine. This kind of dynamic is usually a protective mechanism to keep their inner masculine and feminine from alchemizing and coming together for them to push through to being the genderless spirit that they are, which can take the form of a masculine expression and feminine expression. That's this kind of like, right, I'm going to stay over here and you're going to stay over there. But then if you're in the presence of this kind of openness, it's an invitation to step into like deeper sovereignty of being beyond biology, because biology only comes from masculine and feminine. So it's like this big whirlwind that you start to kind of get sucked into in that presence of yeah, it's like you're a walking invitation for basically the alchemization of the two polarities of masculine and feminine to be seen as one. And that's what I think is the most crucial thing in this era is that split.
I saw the walk-in invitation with a bunch of locks. I saw like 1,000 locks. I'm like, well, an open invitation, and you need to find the keys that I'm going to hide in really cool places. And let's see if you find them. I'm like, that's my walk-in invitation. Oh, yeah, right. So I like everybody wants to get closer to me. They're like, I just want to take the key. I'm like, no, 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 no. It took me a long time and many centuries to get that key. Nobody can touch it. I may tell you something. Maybe.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then there's nothing to do, but there's so much to do.
Mm.
And then truly we can express ourselves from infinite passion, we as the collective, because nothing to do. It's like, oh, what am I excited to share with myself right now?
Mm.
And then everybody abides in their preferred playground. And that was always New Earth was about. New Earth is not a separate planet, it's just a state of being. That's a non-state of what's my highest passion in this moment? Without fear and in responsible consideration of the rest of yourself. Those two, I mean, as you said, Bashar got it, right? It's kind of like that.
Yeah. The Saint Germain's really good as well, where they say we're coming out of an era of real dependency on each other just to be able to evolve the human race out of primal animalistic fighting each other. We had to come into like community in a way. But the age of self is dawning with a capital S, where the society will feel so. If you will walk into it right now, let's say it's 100 years in the future, 500 years in the future, bearing in mind if you're in our reality, which would be a very different timeline to if you're choosing division, we just won't see you and you won't see us, which is fine. But if you're on this video, it's more than likely that you're choosing the path of unity because you wouldn't anyway.
Right.
In that society, Saint Germain puts a really good point where it's almost as if the level of sovereignty is so pure that you exist within your reality. You're walking around so sovereign, and others, if there's any adjoining in that way, it's a joining of like celebrating the wholeness. It's almost as if they are just the wallpaper of your experience. They're not the subject of experience, not in a harsh way at all. Actually, it's really full of love because then no one needs anything from you. You don't need anything from them. But then, if you do come together, it's going to be so pure because it's a decision based on love and passion rather than you're going to give me something to fill this void. It's so, so different where people think they're still in relationships which are sovereign, but a lot of the time it's mingled in. It's not like black and white, but a lot of the time it is still this dependency on something. And this isn't like physical dependency. Like some people need people to care for them, but we're talking about a spiritual dependency, right? Like a complete sovereignty and a solitude that starts to like almost dawn on you where you do love to spend time alone, especially for maybe a certain period. But what happens is you start to become so, I love this quote from this guy called Ralph Emerson. He says, the true sense of sovereignty is being in the midst of the crowd and not losing your sweetness of self. That's the truth, is to not hibernate eventually. You spend a lot of time alone, but as you go into the crowd, you have such an affinity with who you are that nothing can ever take you away from that. But 9 times out of 10, I find it's just easier to stay in solitude because there's so much love and the frequencies can be easier. But eventually there is this going out and not losing that. But for me anyway, it's been a difficult skill to learn. And I'm still finding myself at times turning back around either in defense or in attachment. But very, very quickly, like they become whispers because you know how it feels. Like it's so obvious the difference in energy. But yeah, I really wanted to know that society that's on the way.
Right. Nice. The whisper of the past. Are you going to be minded to this again? Are we going to get too excited about that? Are we going to get too detached? It's not even attachment or detachment. It's non-attachment because it's not an aversion. It's not a grasp. Coming out with other souls in joining, as long as it keeps feeling passionate and fun and in equal energy exchange. That's my balance. Like the moment I feel like the vibration is not giving back the same level of space frequency holding, if it doesn't hold the same space, they shift and they have to serve more. The lower fields serve the higher fields. And it's not hierarchy. It's just the energy of the universe is in perfect balance of giving and receiving. So those beings receive a signal that say, this is your highest, best next opportunity to raise your vibration. So when I go out into the field, usually what I'm surrounded with are beings that are either ready to serve me or they're masters like me, and we communicate from that level. That's how it works for me now. Where I rather be alone. Or playing inner childs, but with masters, because it's easy to be, they match that same frequency.
Yeah, it's pure physics. It's not even like a concept. It's
Yeah.
there's not even a hierarchical thing of like some kind of bowing down. It's really everything serving the whole. So that person that comes into the field will be like naturally, I know when I'm in the presence of a master because I just pick up on their consciousness, and my whole life I've just been at the feet of someone I think is higher in consciousness until I either transcend their level of consciousness or I move on to the next, like relentlessly. until you find no one left apart from those on the etheric plane. So what I find is those that want it the most will have the humility to know when they're in the presence of a master. And I mean, like, even those that have gone, like David Hawkins, he actually died on my birthday. And I remember like looking him up, knowing that he was dead, but still knowing I was in the presence of, even on his videos, putting things aside and knowing that whatever it, like if he wanted to come to town, I knew back then I would have helped him in any way I could, because of the gravitational pull of the light. Subconsciously, all the souls are working together to support the light to teach or to do this. So at a certain point, for example, with the Hawkins stuff, now you see how Hawkins saw. He was really laying the foundation, as Jesus says, for those to come and do more. Because the whole point of creation is to get more and more bright, more and more light. So the masters that come in, it's not just like this sick joke where it's like, oh, bow down to me. No, it's everything's a symphony working together, because the whole point of the masters is trying to bring someone up to their level. Because if you were to come down and start talking in the same way, you've got to be a beacon, right? You've got to be a beacon. So the ships, in that moment, when someone's out to sea in a stormy sea, the lighthouse really is something that they have to kind of have the humility to head towards. But then when they're at that same place, the lighthouse, they'll spot another one that's even brighter, that's even on a higher ground. And it's not hierarchical. It's just consciousness. It's the way that masters work. Ascended masters now are the only people that I can listen to. They guide me.
Yeah. In order to preserve energy, the universe responds to needs, not wants. That's why the whole of the collective, it's always safe. Everybody will always get what they need and a little bit more, and then they have to give back. That's how the whole collective balances itself out. Then the higher space you have in yourselves, the tuning in space, then you get way more, because God uses you as a channel to give frequency to the rest of the collective through you. That's why every being of high consciousness, every master, takes care of a portion of the collective, because they have the space to channel that light for them. In any form of light, money, symbols, abundances, housing, clothing, invitations, support, a friendship, everything is just energy. Like if you look at the dollar, I was reading the United States dollar, that was like, says like symbol of debt. Doesn't even say credit or price. I was like, if I would have made I was like, I should make the dollars. If I do make the dollars, how cool. Anyways, but this one created in this reality says symbol of debt. And I'm like, oh, so you're just giving people symbols of debt. Thank you. No, thank you. Like, well, I guess that's what it's happening on planet Earth right now, but okay. So
Yeah.
funny.
Woven into the collective, these subtle energies that keep. I found out the other day that the word ciao that's used in Italy, hello and goodbye, means I am a slave in Latin. So they've put things into I never say it anymore, because they put things into the thing with which words have a very, very distinct energy to them. And they've managed to convince the whole of Italy to say I am a slave on the daily. And look what happens to the energy of that. Like, it's written into the system, just these different polarities playing out, trying to battle out for consciousness to grow or consciousness to condense into basically kind of smallness and this way. There was something else that came through then as well, but I forgot. But I think the main thing I want to come through was this. Like, if you look into the whole structures of society, there are so many symbols for the reflection that most people in society want to stay small. They want to stay in the system of debt. Like, secretly, they're enjoying this mindset of being at the effect of something else. And so we spoke about last week, if you're in the presence of higher consciousness, the true humility to know that what you want is what they see, and then to go on and to see more, that shows me that you want your paradigms to collapse. You want your prison to collapse in the space for the new to grow. So if someone comes into the presence of a teacher that subconsciously, whether you want it or not, you'll know that they're going to break you apart, all your paradigms, whether you say that you don't care about them or not. If you're in the presence of them and you start getting nervous or you start getting agitated or angry, it's not you that's angry, it's all of your little prisons that you built against the wall, against the world that is being threatened. And here it's always been so just what is true and what is standing in the way of that true. Oftentimes, you know, getting persuaded this way, that way, but ultimately coming back to right, who knows the most on the planet, right? Like, is it the books, Nisargadatta, then Ramana Maharshi? Is it this? Is it this? And then it's like just to know that the objective of the teacher is to deconstruct your whole reality. But to the point we get where when you step into mastery, there's less of this deconstruction, I find. It's more of a growth from that point. Because in order for this growth into your mastery, into the funness of spirit, where you just start creating and it's passion and joy, you do have to first completely deconstruct this glass ball that we try to keep together as like, I don't know, we call it a human, I think, where it's just like, I am this and I won't let this break apart. But yeah,
Should
it's
break apart. Goosebumps. That's how the light gets in. Breaks apart, light gets in, and then reconstructs itself every second. Deconstruct, reconstruct. It's like, whew. It's like I can see the thing like this now. Like I'm like, oh cool. Cool. Okay. Nice. Hold on. It's like you're holding on to nothing. It's air. It's like, oh, okay. But I can move forward. I can stand back. I can clap with one hand. Where is it? Where is it? So fun. And silly.
yeah, only the innocent get through the gate. That's what I love. Only the childlike. There's got to be a step into that because all seriousness must be from some kind of belief that says, "Uh-oh, I can lose something here." But you're in an infinite universe. Like there's an infinite reality that you'll go wherever you want to go. Like Bashar says, when you die, what happens? Whatever you like. Like there is nothing to worry about, right? And the only reason you'd be worrying is because in the middle of God's mind, you've gone, well, what would it be like to worry? Let's try that out. Let's try out that density to really veil ourselves. And that's what it's like. You're always in control, whether you think you're not or not. You know.
Funny.
We are master actors, actresses.
Master actor.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's important as well to take
Well,
the step into mastery. Sorry, just to, like we said on the website, to self-proclaim yourself as that master when you see, because at a certain point, until you do that, there's a certain disowning of your mastery, and that gate to from humility to self-esteem, true self-esteem, which is you are what you say you are. So step into what you want to be, which is to be higher and higher in consciousness. That's what you'll get. So to put that away from like a fake modesty is another delay mechanism I find into like this hippie kind of we're all just the same. We are all the same, but how much do you see that? Like that's what we're becoming a master in is how much do you see that?
yes. How much do you see that? Beautiful. Being back to people being afraid of their power, and there's a stage where then you're gonna meet your spiritual ego. But if you are scared to meet your spiritual ego in the highest of the prides, then you're not ready to cross through the eye of the needle. Because then when you meet that spiritual ego in the highest of, oh, yeah, I'm a master, and then it's like all of the shadows are gonna come up, that's when you purify that. And then it becomes a clean channel for what everything is, which is Godhead, without the distortions. Everything is Godhead with the distortions.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, whether someone sees that or not, they are what you see when you step into it. It's just such a cop out to not to basically disown the power of yourself, and you're actually thinking that you're helping others by being modest, but truly you're staying in the swamp and saying, well, I'm not going to get out of the swamp because I want to help from within the swamp. But the clarity of what you find on the outside of the swamp when you let all the water and all the goo and everything kind of just bake off of you, because the sun can't even get to you if you're under the collective fog of saying that I am some kind of victim to my external circumstances, that this isn't all coming from myself. As soon as you realize just what you're doing, that that's not helping at all, it's like, right, who am I to say, who am I to stay within this compound? Even if it's a case of not really believing yourself, the amount of times that if I hadn't taken those steps, that spiritual ego would stay dormant and not be touched, to be transmuted and to be purified. Sometimes even taking a step, even if you don't feel like it, uploading a video that's a bit risky, or stating how you feel about your level of consciousness and helping others. Even someone starting sessions, like they may not feel worth it. Now look at everything that comes up, the shame, the guilt that says you should stay within your little box. Because that's the only word, that's the only phrase the ego has, is you're too big for your boots. It's the only thing it says in different ways, really, to me. So each time you listen to it, you say, no, I'm going to carry on. Because every time I've carried on before, it's just led to more openings, and the voices lose their power because they get transmuted into purified light. There is nothing
Yeah.
that says anything.
That's why one of the fastest ways to realization is to own one's desires, because in the heart's desires, in the journey for self-actualization or calling work, or what people call career, which is just the same thing, you're excited about it. Unless some people use that just for the sense of security, and that's another topic. But true calling work without the sense of security, just because it's your passion, wish you will get that and more. It's a great vehicle to unwind the self. Because as you said, then you're going to meet the shame. Then you're going to meet the guilt. Then you're going to meet the resistance. Then you're going to meet the pride in the journey of actualization and sharing the calling work. So both at the same time, it's a great vehicle for that.
Yeah, pause it
Some
all.
people
Yeah.
gone.
There you go. I was enjoying what you're saying about the distillation process.
Yeah, and I've met many students that have just worked with teachers.
You cut out them.
Yeah. There's a point where enlightenment or non-duality can become a bypass without, if there's not an exploration of the heart's desires. Oh no, it's okay. We're all at peace. It's nothing. It becomes a program itself instead of you're here to be alive. That's why the modern mystic. It's not like before. It's things have changed. It's to be active in society. Well, being in the world, but not of it. Same thing.
Right. There's a great example for that, following the heart desire. So imagine as you're writing your soul's blueprint, right, of what you want to provide in this collective, what you want to explore, what you want to have fun with. You've written very certain traits, certain places you were born, the time, everything, the astrology, the certain energies that you would have, what you're bringing into this lifetime. The desires are there for you to go into that. Let's say secretly, Tesla. So he wanted to bring through all of this electronics, all of this stuff that was going to completely revolutionize. He would have programmed into his soul, or really taken from his other lives, all these other lives, learning the skills and the desires and certain things that you have an affinity towards, certain things you just don't want to dwell in. Imagine disowning your desires, which are the fulfillment of your soul's purpose, because you think that you have to fit into this hippie culture that everyone should have no desire. Like to know that that heart's desire is your key to even assisting the ascension process on the planet. Because not all desires are just like, even the ones that seem dirty to the hippie mind. And when I say hippie mind, I don't mean anyone. I mean just the collective goo of just feeling small. The ones which are even about money, right? Let's say someone has this real thirst for money, but in their soul blueprint, they wanted to earn a lot of wealth in order to support all of these ventures into consciousness growth and technology advancement. So their part of the role, their part of the plan is to have this real affinity towards money and wealth and gaining and building architecture and building these facilities. So
Yeah.
as soon as like you make something guilty, you're actually disowning your role. Like a whole house of cards, every card needs to be in place. If you take out yours, it will all come tumbling down. And the prodigy, the proud prodigy that you're going to fund and provide the equipment for, or the teacher that you're going to support, then doesn't have the support in that way and has to find it somewhere else. And so when you have the bigger picture of what desires truly are, they're not all just this for fun. Everything is for fun, but truly there is some like plan to this, right? That like people have soul traits to bring through what they're doing. So with you, you're providing codes for certain people. You're opening up whole new paradigms within spirituality. You would have looked at the collective from spirit and thought, this is really annoying to watch. Look at all these people thinking that being poor is this. I'm going to go in with my personality and break apart these paradigms. But if you were falling into guilt about that, you'd be another spiritual seeker not giving your gifts. So it's like, with that context, everything shatters.
You're good.
People need to wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's a deepening.